Hello everyone, welcome to Naren Sai with MS. This is Naren and it's time for what MS has taught me. Now, today's video, I wanted to point out something that I think, you know, some people might actually think that it's a pretty cool thing, other people might not, just because, when it comes to learning things about ourselves, when it's learning new things or learning learning the same thing over and over, a lot of times people will have their own thoughts about this. But of course it is something that I do want to talk about, because I definitely am in that sort of place where I have to do it again, and chances are it will not be my last. So the one thing that MS taught me is that you have to be willing to learn and relearn the same things over and over again. Just that the situation, the the situation will be very different. So if I think about simple activities like for example walking, um, there was a time when I didn't really know how to walk. I wasn't exactly walking as much as uh, lunging from one step to another step, and then I had to learn how to walk again. Then had another relapse, again lost the ability to walk, regained it back. And of course each time it's slightly different because the situation that was happening was different, right? There were certain things that I had to take care of, right? Maybe my EDSS score had definitely gone up during the relapse, and then when it recovered it hadn't gone back all the way back down to what it originally was. Apart from that, any periods of time when, let's say, there wasn't a lot of activity going on, um, there would be some amount of atrophy somewhere or the other, which meant that there would be some or one or another repercussion that would happen in learning that skill. So a lot of times the one thing that MS definitely teaches you, or at least it taught me, was that I have to be uh, I have to be patient with myself, patient to the point or to the extent of being patient with myself to the extent that I can, you know, go back to learning the one thing that I had forgotten as a result of, living life. So it is definitely, and I mean, I did pick up the topic of walking just because it is probably one of the easiest things for us to do. But it definitely is something that, kind of popped into my head first. Of course, this can actually happen with a lot of activities, both easy and complicated, that you might, as an MS patient or as a patient with a similar medical condition, that you might have to relearn over and over and over, just so you can, go back to executing it. And of course that one thing does remind me that we cannot stop doing anything at any point in time. I mean, a lot of issues that actually do exist with me I think have just stemmed from me just saying that, oh yeah, I shouldn't do that, or I don't want to do that. And next thing I knew, I had lost the ability to do that activity entirely. So it is, definitely a harsh thing, right? Just like with yesterday's harsh truths, this, I guess, is another harsh truth, and definitely is a harsh lesson, a hard lesson that I had to learn, that really, if you want to live a life that where you are being adventurous, where you are being physically active or physically overactive or hyperactive, you need to be in the mind frame of doing those hyperactive things, and you need to put them into practice, not only on the special days, but on a daily basis, just so you lower the risk of losing that activity or that ability, um, at least until you train yourself to do it again. So it is definitely a little I realize this is a little more it's a little it's a little more serious than I intended this to be. But of course, this is one of those things that you definitely need to keep in mind. And of course, there are certain things that do end up happening which do not that kind of fall outside sort of the purview of this, right? Something like how my oscillopsia came in and it became a lot harder for me to read. Of course, there are ways around that, um, like rather than uh, rather than use rather than actually read, maybe use more text to speech. But at the end of the day, the more important thing is that if there is something that you do love doing, and say you do end up getting diagnosed with MS, the one thing that you should not do is stop doing your favorite activity just because, at least until you know for a fact that you do not have the ability to completely do it, just because you know your physical ability will not allow you, because stopping that activity will actually lead to you losing that ability a lot faster. So that is something that I had to share. But of course, one thing that I do want to hear from you is your thoughts, your comments, your insights, and your experiences, so that we can, of course, get the conversation started. And with that said, this is Naren Sai with MS. I am Naren, and of course, please do give in your comments. Please do share your own things in the comment section. And of course, with that said, here's wishing you a good night, sweet dreams, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.